work with 12-steppers, mostly like friends and family members of alcoholics, and I work with a lot of those who are, coming out of the substance use into recovery. And I mean, meditation is a part of their program. So it'll be nice to know there's a clinician nearby where I could just say, hey, go check some of this stuff out. Because, I found for 12-steppers, and I've done it my whole career working with individuals in recovery, is like those who meditate, those who pray, to whatever version of a higher power they've decided, and take a program of action around those things. So those are the ones who are getting better by leaps and bounds. And so, it is, it's one of those where it's like you see it on social media and it's like a pop psych term in some circles, but it's like, this is tangible stuff. Like you practice these things, you're going to feel better.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much research and data to support the efficacy of a meditation practice and it being just as effective as taking medication. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like, go figure. I work with like dudes, know, and it's always funny to me when I'll have like a dude who's just as covered in tats as I am. He'll come in and be like, dude, I did yoga this weekend. I'm like, dude, it was nice, right?
Yeah, I love it.
And that stuff is just it's so helpful when you're trying to sort through your emotions and you don't have a lot of places to turn emotionally yet. Taking some of those recommendations can be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't need anything to meditate.
Right.
I mean, well, maybe you need a phone or something to listen to a guided meditation if that feels more supportive for you in practicing, but, you can just meditate without that as well. I teach my clients when I'm trying to introduce that to them is just doing a simple one around like you're just anchoring to your breath. And so that's your focal point. It's just your breathing. And you don't have to necessarily alter your breathing. It's just noticing your breathing. And when your mind wanders away, and it's going to wander away, not kind of judging yourself for that, but when you notice that that's happened, just circling back to the breath.
Yeah. And there's something so practical about even the way you stated that. It's like, I remember in the beginning, I would hear someone like, don't, in your own mind, don't judge yourself when your mind wanders, like around meditation. Cause it's such a practical way to look at it. And I remember early on in my, cause I started in my young 20s and I would hear that stuff and I'd be like, that's corny, just like anything that works, it always sounds corny. But what I share with people is like, it's so tangible when you really allow yourself to communicate that way and to latch on to that type of like self relationship. I'm not going to judge myself. Right. Maybe I have a lot of models that have taught me to do that, and hearing a clinician remind me that is also why I've stepped into this, to accept those resources.
Absolutely. It's just an act of self-compassion, and it's something that we don't do a lot of to ourselves or for ourselves.
Yeah, I get reflected by, I have a really good group of people around me, and sometimes I like to be like, I just like to try to make people laugh and stuff. And sometimes because of the way I grew up, I'll make like self-deprecating comments, and I have to take the reflections, and that's another part, is like having good people around you, having a good clinician who's working with you. Because without those reminders, I was just doing that all the time. It was what I was shown. That's kind of how dudes operate. I played baseball my whole life. That's kind of how we talk to each other on a baseball field. And, with emotions, I was like a bull in a china shop when I first started to work towards becoming a therapist. And it was a lot of those things, and trusting what you're talking about tonight, that opened this doorway, that I didn't even know existed, emotionally speaking.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah. I'm glad, just to have another clinician on here for another week who shares these messages, because I do tend to pull in a male crowd as well, with some of the stuff that I do. And, and I always share, I'll like look and like, dudes, this is the stuff that you want to have healthy relationships. You want to build a family. You want to, be at more peace in your life. You got to do these things, meditate, see a therapist. You got some trauma, sort it out, get grounded.
Right. Absolutely. And the reality is we all have trauma. Now, whether it's a big T trauma or a little T trauma.
Yeah, I haven't heard that term since grad school. That took me back.
Yeah. But I mean, we all have stuff, right?
Yeah.
We all have things that we've experienced in our life that have probably created or reinforced some limiting beliefs. And that's how we're showing up in the world.
Right.
And, if we can start to tackle that and deal with it, it really is going to shift how we interact with people, how we feel about ourselves, how we are just overall functioning.
Yeah. And I get a sense just even from hearing you describe your practice and the way you describe things and how you were just stating that it's very action based. If someone is to come and see you, it's like they're going to process with you, but I hear that your approach is also very much like, let's get you into action.